Today's session, I like to focus on again your JavaScript object model. I like to focus on HTML 5.0 features. I also like to focus few HTML elements. I like to introduce you here cascaded style sheet. What is exactly CSS? What is the overview of CSS? How we can use a CSS? At the same time, I also like to go back and try to use here something more extra about layout management. Karo, these are nothing but our today's topic. We are going to keep it here. That means our major agenda for today's session also going to be HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Okay, and tomorrow we might go further for knowing about something called jQuery. So we are trying to do one thing after having Node.js understanding, after having server-side programming concept, after knowing something about Express.js. Okay, we have now focused on creating the front end for your website. How I can create multiple HTML pages, how I can link multiple HTML pages, how can I associate some JavaScript as a code behind file for my application. How can I use document object model of your HTML page and try to change the data dynamically using their methods. That is what exactly yesterday we learned it, correct? No? And we like to keep that journey going on as it is. I already said that if you want to be web developer, okay, web developer. So being as a web developer, you are going to be front-end developer, front-end developer. Plus you are going to be web application, or you can call as a web service developer, or you can also start writing something here as, I'll just add it here point as a middle layer. Okay, web application developer. So being as a web application developer, you will use some kind of middle layer programming technique where I use the word called HTTP pipeline. What is one of HTTP pipeline? Somewhere within a web server, you need to handle authentication authorization. So you might wanted to use a concept called authentication, authorization. You might wanted to apply for your application something called statefulness. That means you like to implement something called session management. So session management. You may wanted to add a logic which will handle data access. Data access management. Because ultimately, whenever you're going to create a website application, the website application is going to show data to the customer. The data will be shown within a front end, but the data will be fetched in a front end from your web application. And the web application will fetch the data by using some kind of external database connectivity. I use what here? External database connectivity. So I think in Java, you did come across a concept called database connectivity. I think there was a topic called JDBC. Here we only call the word called DBC, database connectivity. Okay, database connectivity. So there are chances you might store your data in separate database, which is called as a Mongodb database or MySQL database or SQL Server database. So that logic, middle layer logic is going to be this part. Front end will be this part. And I'm going to go add further here. Plus. What is the plus? I'm focusing on backend programming. Backend means database programming. Database developer. So you might be responsible for managing the data within a database. Now that database you can use it, you can use that database here as NoSQL database or SQL database. So SQL database, structured query language database, SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle. Okay, we call them as SQL database. But since we are going with our module, in that module, our job is not to go for that database, but we have got a database, that database called as NoSQL database. Giving you complete picture of your model. And here we are going to use MongoDB. MongoDB. So MongoDB is a database which is so popular for storing your internet data, and the data has been organized using JSON style. Such kind of JSON style data is called as documents, and the documents will be there by having a lot of collections, and that has been maintained here. So this MongoDB data will be accessed using database connectivity within your web server, web application. You will use shopping cart management using state management technique called session. You might want to make your application secure application. You make your application secure application using authentication and authorization. You like to implement some caching, you like to implement some kind of like a filtration, you like to do some kind of like a extra configuration. We will call that as a web developer. But you also write some kind of reusable web services, REST API. Can you see? So this is what exactly we really see the word. And I say this is going to be developer. Now I should change my word here. I should not write the word as a web developer. I should write the word here something called as full stack developer. Get the clarity? Being as a full stack developer, front end, web service developer, all those things will be your role. These are the things you're going to implement, and also you will take care of all those things. Yes, this is what we call full stack developer. And when I call the full stack developer, which kind of full stack we are right now focusing? We are focusing here MEAN, mean stack, means. Very good. Database, when you talk about, you always say the database is responsible for storing data. Can I just consider this one? Yes. So tell me at this moment, whenever you have a data, how do you store the data? The data is always stored in the form of file. And when data is stored in the form of file, we always store the data in the form of file by using a normal concept, that is something called the data will be in the form of text. So you can write your numerical data as well as your characters in one thing as a text data. But if we want to make that data much more meaningful data, what we do, we just go back and we try to get our data and try to store data in the form of table. Now what is the meaning of table? For example, I wanted to store the information about my employee. So if you want to store the data about an employee, what we will do? We will create an employee as an entity, and for the employee entity, we will create a table called employees table. Employees table, once it is created, this table will have some kind of fields, fields defined. So we might define a field like this way, employee ID. We might define something called first name. We might define another attribute or field, L name. And we might define something, this employee belongs to which department, and we write here called DPT ID. Okay. So whenever you want to store data, we will try to store data in the form of like a tabular fashion, where that employee would have some kind of ID, the employee will have some kind of name, the employee will have some kind of like a last name, and the employee might belong to certain department. So you just write here department name. Okay, this person Ravi Tamre belongs to department. I'm not going to write a department. I'm just writing something. He belongs to department number 3. There might be some other employee. I'm telling you the difference between SQL and NoSQL. So here again I'm putting data. So data has been organized in the form of tables. In the table, the data has been organized in the form of rows and columns. Rows are called records. Rows are called records. He might belong to department number 4. You can have like a thousands of records been kept, and these records have been defined by using some metadata. We call them as fields. So these are nothing but my fields, and these are nothing but my actual data has been organized in the form of something called records. So data has been organized by multiple records. Every record would be defined by a type: employee ID, F name, last name, department ID. This what we call as a standard data has been kept it here. But my dear friend, please have a look very carefully. What is this department ID? I don't know. It's a number is given, some kind of identifier for that department is there. But where's the information about the department? The information of that department might have been represented by a separate table. So there might be a table called department. Department will be another entity, which is your business entity. And you'll have a table called departments. And the department table also going to be like a table, but this table will be defined by using its own kind of fields. So there might be the field given here, something called as a DPT ID. There will be the field I will here call name of that department. You will also have one more field called location, where this department is going to be there. So what do you find? Department information has been organized by using different types of fields. And there is a department here, I'm going to write it here called as 1. Department is training. So this is a training department, and the training department is somewhere in Panchavati. Okay. Oh, we also have another department, department number 2. Now our department is something called research and development. RESERCH, research. Okay, research department. Now research department might be there somewhere at Ganesh Kind, Pune. We might have another department. We might have our department called marketing department. And marketing department might be somewhere in Mumbai. So what you're trying to find, I think we have information, but the information has been kept in two different entities, and these two different entities are related. I use word here, related. So there is an employee table, there is a departments table, the information is available here, the information is available here, and these two informations are interrelated together by using this particular ID which is common here. So that somebody can read the information, Ravi Tamde belongs to department number 3, but the department number 3, that means I need to go back and see what is the department. It's a training. Now I'll understand my information. Ravi Tamde belongs to training department. So your information has been related with each other, and this kind of information, if it is related with each other, we always use a standard style of writing that databases. We call that databases as RDBMS, Relational Database Management Databases. Such kind of databases are always accessed by using a standard query. The standard query is called as a standard query language, SQL. SQL is kind of a syntax used for RDBMS databases, where the data has been relational data and that has been accessed. So there might be employees table, there might be departments table, there might be projects table, there might be task table, and these all kind of tables are interrelated with each other by using distributed mechanism. We call SQL databases. But now we find that MongoDB is a database which is not a SQL database. It is called as NoSQL database. Now what is NoSQL database? Now see, NoSQL database. That means there is no SQL query. That means this database is not RDBMS database. Example of the database I'm just giving here, MongoDB. Now same information if you want to organize about employees and department. So how this information will be organized in a MongoDB? No SQL databases are also, I can give a name. These databases are based on what? Hierarchical model for data management. So whatever information you like to manage, that information will be organized in the form of like a hierarchy. And that hierarchy will be represented by using a standard syntax. That syntax is called as a JSON. So if I just take the same example right now which I'm pointing here, employee and departments. So we will have only one particular collection. So if I want to have this, so I will have my own collection called employees collection. So I will have employees collection. Yes, this employees will not be table. These employees will be called as collection. Now what this employees collection will contain? Employees collection will contain set of records, set of documents, and every document will be represented, okay, by your actual data. So if I just want to show something, here is going to be picture like this way. What do you find here? A square bracket, a collection. Collection we always represent by using square bracket. Under that I want to represent one data. So can I represent one data? I'm using this symbol. And I'm writing a data. So there is no any particular separate metadata like fields defined. So here we have got fields, and the field will have type, and according to that your records will be organized. But here in this case, if I just look around, your data will be represented like this way. What is that? ID colon 34. Slightly I'm deviating myself from the topic, but the question has been asked. So even though somehow I need to explain sometime after, but let me just make it clear here so that the question will be answered and we will focus on the further topic. So ID, first name. What happened? Key value pair, and we are giving the information. What is that? Last name. Last name. Same information. Okay. But here now it comes what? Now it comes here department. So here we'll have department. Now when this department will be defined, no? There's no department ID used, the department word is used, and now I'm putting here something called colon. And after that colon I'm doing something here. Have you observed? Nested JSON object. You just go back and write here. What is that? DPT ID. And I'm writing the department he belongs to. I'm writing here itself. Question mark, sorry, colon 1. Again putting comma. Name. What is the department? Training. And last one. What is that? I think location. So here I'm just writing location. And location, I may write here something called here Panchavati. So what do you observe? You really observe the data which has been organized. Let us see here properly. The data which has been organized, the data has been organized as a one document here. It's like this way. So if I show you properly, this is the way picture will look like. Good. So this is one record. No, I'll say it's a one document. We may have a number of employees. So we might have like this. Okay. So consider every ID is different and every information is something different. So how many employees information has been stored? If you just see, I think we have got stored something almost seven employees information. Seven employees information has been organized using table? No. 7 employees information has been organized in the form of like a one document. And on that document, we find the information is given in the form of like a key value pair. The information has been given in the form of like a key value pair. But when I come across a department, so department itself is actually self-exploratory, which is saying department is nothing but the object, which is nothing but another JSON object, and another JSON object, the value has been given. That means the information has been nested. The information has been organized in the form of nesting concept, and that nesting concept has been done by using a hierarchical model. So do we have any particular SQL query syntax to retrieve the data from that? No. We cannot access data using like a SQL, which we used to do here by using command something called select star from employee or something. Here that is not the way. We have to traverse each and every object, read that information, or search information using some searching technique and get that thing. Such kind of databases, my dear friend, is called as NoSQL databases. Okay. What is the advantage? Here we have to do a lot of referencing. Here there is no referencing, information as the form of in the same way. So I think such kind of information reading will be faster. Here, the information you have to read, you need to go back, get that information, again go back, open the table, get the information, and then again design the information. So SQL database also has got some advantages. No SQL database also has got the advantages. When you're working as a min stack developer, full stack developer, you might use MongoDB along with MySQL, or you might use only MongoDB, or you might use only your MySQL. So that is totally decided by your architect based on the kind of application you're going to deal, and the based on the kind of the data traffic you will have against it. This is the way I explain you. In a very simple manner, NoSQL databases organizes data in the hierarchical manner, and that data we call as a JSON data. And nowadays, when you are going for big data applications, I really find such data is always going to be organized like that way. For example, if my greenhouse data I would like to capture and store it somewhere, I will never store my greenhouse census data inside RDBMS. I will always store data in the form of these entries. Because in this thing, we have a chance. I may give this information, or I may have only such information. Inside this, I have a mechanism. I would not require here department. I would only have a name information. So there is a flexibility in organizing a different size of data, and still the consistency has been maintained. Such kind of thing actually we do not get the advantage. Today our data is nothing but a Twitter data. Today we are finding our data is a Twitter data. Today we are finding our data is a Facebook data. Today we are finding a lot of data which has been generated on internet. It is actually unstructured data. So if the data has been unstructured data, how do you organize this unstructured data? You can organize this unstructured data using this simple kind of mechanism rather than having this particular relational database. Did you get the answer? I think I gave a more answer. Very good. And now if you want to really focus on this SQL and NoSQL database very well, then I think we can directly dive inside the database module, and then we'll have much more clarity, correct? No? But at least from a min stack developer perspective, whatever thing you need to understand, I think that much of information I just give it here. Okay. We will try to see MongoDB also, how we can write the MongoDB collections, and we will also learn, as I perfectly mentioned, what is that? Can I access that MongoDB data is in that, and whatever MongoDB data you will get it here, can I expose that data using REST API, and can I consume it in a front-end application using my form post? That is what exactly a complete cycle of full stack we would like to go for it. Done. I hope most of you have got a very clarity. There is no any particular conflict. There's no any confusion. We have to learn how to keep our information properly organized in our memory. Okay, no? So never ever keep any particular dangling pointers in the memory. Yes. Now, yes, that is what we will see during MongoDB. Correct, no? Yes, good. So, chalo, let's come back. So I'm using my freedom, being as an instructor, conducting the session as per the need of the students' understanding, not according to the syllabus way, but definitely the syllabus topics we are covering. So the freedom which is given for the instructor to organize the topic so that the students simplicity learning goes happen. That is what we like to pertain further. Coming back to our area, I'll be sharing this file. Don't worry. Where are right now? Where are we? We are about to touch this part. We are about to touch this part. We already started touching this part. We already learned how to create a simple web application using public folder server.js and server.listen and app.use and app.post and app.get. Okay, no? We use app.use function for configuration, body parser, remember? And path join. We also wrote our REST API, simple REST API we just tried, app.get and app.post. We haven't implemented authentication authorization up till now. We haven't tried session management. So session management, authentication authorization, HTTP pipeline, these are the part of Express module. And whatever database will have it here, that database I want to get it within my applications by using connectivity. So that we are about to touch. Before that, we need to create a database. But now we are focusing on the front end. And when I talk about front end, user interface. And in that user interface, what we are focusing now at this moment? Yes, keeping my topic flow, same file, front end. Front end developer. So being as a front end developer, what are we responsible? Being as a front end developer, we are responsible for providing user interface. How do you provide this user interface? You will provide this user interface by using fundamental web technologies, HTML, CSS. You will make this particular user interface, interactive user interface, using JavaScript. Okay? And this HTML, JavaScript, CSS, you will use it together. You might use for the extra thing as XML also for storing data in the form of like a standard fashion, or you might use JSON. So JSON, XML, and CSS, these are fundamental concepts for making your user interface for your application. JavaScript is a programming language which will make that particular page as a dynamic page. I'm going to add it here. But whenever you want to make today's modern user interface, listen. Tomorrow, if you want, sorry, today, if you want to make your application's user interface, modern user interface application, the people decide, do you want to create your user interface? Multi-page application UI? Or you want to make your user interface as single page application UI? So do you want to create your user interface in a one page itself like a mobile app? Mobile app is the best example. Mobile app user interface. It is the best example of single page application concept. Okay, multi-page application, online shopping portal website is a best example of what? Multi-page applications. So if you want to go for multi-page applications, you just create multiple HTML pages and write the logic behind it, just do all kind of work. But nowadays, I'm observing almost 70% applications are getting access not using laptop, not using your desktop, but 70% your applications are getting access using mobile phone. And in a mobile phone, whatever app you are downloading, this app is using a concept. That concept is called single page application concept. In a short time, some of you might have listened the word called SPA. SPA, single page application. You can call it here as a MPA, multi-page applications. So yesterday, whatever we have done, listen, yesterday, whatever work we were trying to do, I think we created login.html separately. We created register.html separately. We created about us.file separately. We have created multiple HTML pages and we link those multiple pages. So whenever user click on a link, some next page will be fetched inside a browser, and through that page, user will interact, and again user will click some other particular link and another page will be fetched from the server, and you'll work and work. That means we are giving a multi-page experience to the customer, and customer is actually interacting with the applications. But nowadays, if I just do one thing, I'll just go back here and try to access something more. www.facebook.com. So when I access this www.facebook.com application, see, am I moving from one page to other page? If I just see here, there is only one web page, www.facebook.com, and now there is no navigation happen from one page to other page. You just use this page and just keep scrolling. Within a one web page, whenever I just click something here, photos. Oh great, my page is same, but the content of the page is getting changed. If I just keep scrolling, please look around. So that means my job is to use only mouse wheel button. I'm using the mouse wheel button, and using this mouse wheel button, I'm just moving further. I get this thing. Now here you find a page got differently set here. But most of the application, when you access it here, no, there is a single page. And single page will show different contents. So we are not getting redirected to another page. We are just getting a different types of parameters saying, and based on that parameter, you really find your information getting changed. This is the best example of what single page application. So do you want to develop this single page application concept being as a front end? Then we use different single page application framework. We call them as React. Facebook has been designed by using React.js UI framework. If you want to make a single page application concept. Another popular single page application framework people follow to make a very good kind of front end application, it is called Angular, given by Google. Okay, learn this way. This is given by Facebook, and both are popular. Few companies for few customers are using React. For few customers, the same company developers are working on Angular, and using that they are designing the user interface. If you want to make your application multi-page application server-side processing pages, so you are going to use it here. A PHP. You would be using here ASP, or you might use here JSP, Java server pages, active server pages, and your PHP, a classic technology for your presenting page right from 1994. ASP, Microsoft technology to create server-side pages. Java server pages. These are the kind of concepts. And for Node.js, Express.js. So that we can create multiple server-side pages which will get data from the database and the work is going to carry out. So these are the kind of way the UI frameworks has been kept it here. And today if I just look around, we have got a combination of all those things together. So HTML, CSS, XML, JavaScript, they are going to be part of this particular projects. If you just look on the UI frameworks right now, I'm pointing out here, these UI frameworks which are listed, they all are based on JavaScript. Facebook, React, JavaScript. Angular, React, JavaScript. So they are actually, we call them as UI frameworks, and these UI frameworks are based on a concept. That concept is called as design pattern. So you want to become a front-end application developer, I think we need to know not just HTML, CSS, XML and JavaScript. We also need to understand the design pattern for creating modern user interface. क्या बोला मैंने यहाँ पर word? Do you want to create today's modern user interface? So if you want to create a today's modern user interface, we wanted that modern user interface should be responsive. It should be dynamic, and it should be instant. Or like that way, I use word here. So if you want to make that thing itself, for making a responsive, you will use something called Bootstrap. To make it dynamic, pop-up animation, you will use SPA concept, single page application framework concept. Or you may make it, you use a single page concept, or you use your old traditional concept. What is the concept I used here? Have you seen? jQuery. So where are we right now? We are only here. Where are we supposed to go? We are supposed to go to Angular. You may go for React also. I have seen there are a lot of IoT based applications whose front ends have been developed as a mobile UI, and that mobile UI they have used React.js, and for that thing they use native React. Okay, no? In our syllabus we are focusing on what? We are focusing on min stack. So under that it will not be possible to cover every UI framework in our given syllabus as per the time constraint. Okay, no? So we are focusing only learn database, Mongodb. Learn web framework, Express.js. We have already started, but we are still about to cover certain topics. Then please learn a UI framework, Angular. And please learn a runtime to deploy this application, manage this application and run these applications, N. Node.js. So this is what you actually call as a min stack. But this min stack will be there along with whom? web development. So every time we are revisiting main stack, and every time we are getting a new extended information, more extra information along with your previous information. Every day something new you are learning by revisiting the same concept and same concept and same concept. After giving you explanation about SQL and NoSQL database, I have cleared being as a front-end application developer means what exactly you are responsible. You are not only responsible for writing HTML pages. You're not supposed to be responsible for writing CSS or XML or simple JSON or simple JavaScript. No, you have to be comfortable with any particular UI framework. This is today's need. Okay. Before 2008, that was okay. Year, I'm talking about year 2008. Before year 2008, people were just learning HTML. People were only learning CSS. People were only learning XML and just getting simple idea of JavaScript and JSON. And they were getting placed in IT companies as a web developer. But today, if somebody wanted to get placed in a company, being as a web developer, as a front-end application developer, this much of knowledge is not sufficient. You should have knowledge of HTML, CSS, XML, JavaScript, and this or this. Web application development is endless journey. Okay, you are learning such a kind of technology where we say web application development, web application technologies. Currently, the version which we are going to learn about Angular, it is 10.0. Okay, previously 6 months before, not 6 months, 4 months before, it was Angular 9. Before 8 months, it was Angular 8. Before its 12 months, it was Angular 7. So that means the Angular was launched somewhere in 2016. Yes, 2016. So even myself also being as an instructor, being as a developer, I also keep learning these technologies continuously. HTML 5.0, JavaScript 5.0, JavaScript 6.0. Now TypeScript. This is continuously going on. Angular will be introducing the next version, Angular 11, somewhere in November.